All right, this problem asks us to find theta between 0 and 2 pi for the equation sine theta minus sine squared theta equals negative cosine squared theta. All right, so here we have sine and sine squared, so we know we're going to have to factor this. But we've also got this cosine squared, so we're going to want to turn that into sine using our Pythagorean identity. So this cosine squared is equal to 1 minus sine squared. So let's start by replacing cosine squared with 1 minus sine squared. Don't forget that negative in front of the cosine. That's going to be distributed to both this 1 and the negative sine squared there. Is equal to, and let's leave this the same for now, minus sine squared theta. Okay. Now we've got a sine squared and a sine, so we're going to need to factor. So let's get everything over to one side and leave the other side equal to 0. So here, let's distribute that negative. So this is going to be negative 1 plus sine squared theta. And then now let's get both of these over to the other side. So let's add 1 to both sides, and we'll subtract sine squared from both sides. So here, negative sine squared minus sine squared is negative 2 sine squared theta. And then we've got this plus sine theta, and then plus 1 is equal to 0, because all of these will add to 0. And I wrote it like that so that we've got the squared term first, and then the regular sine term, and then the constant, so that we can factor this more easily. When I'm factoring, I usually don't like to have a negative leading coefficient here. So let's multiply the whole thing by negative 1. That'll give us 2 sine squared theta minus sine theta minus 1 equals 0. Now we can factor this. To make 2 sine squared theta, we need 2 sine theta and sine theta. To make a 1, we need 1 and a 1. One of these has got to be negative, and we want the one that's going to give us a negative in the middle. So let's put the negative 1 here, so that negative 1 times 2 sine theta is going to give us negative 2 sine theta, plus 1 sine theta gives us the negative sign that we have in the middle there. Now we can set each factor equal to 0 separately. So 2 sine theta plus 1 equals 0. And over here we have sine theta minus 1 is equal to 0. Solving for sine theta, if we subtract 1 from both sides and divide by 2, we get sine theta equals negative 1/2. Over here we get that sine theta is equal to 1. And now we can turn to our unit circle and see where sine is equal to negative 1/2 or 1. So sine is negative 1/2 here at 7 pi over 6 and also at 11 pi over 6. And sine is equal to 1 up here at pi over 2. So we're going to have pi over 2, 7 pi over 6, and 11 pi over 6. So theta is equal to pi over 2, 7 pi over 6, or 11 pi over 6. Those are the 3 answers between 0 and 2 pi.